As expected, Boris Johnson has been chosen in a ballot of Conservative Party members to be the next Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. He easily won the vote over Jeremy Hunt by around 66% and replaces the outgoing Theresa May. While Ms May failed at her mission to get a Brexit deal past Parliament, Mr Johnson has vowed to, quote, get it done. Let's take a listen to some of the rallying cry he delivered to his colleagues.
I read in my Financial Times this morning that no incoming leader has ever faced such a daunting set of circumstances, it said. Well, I look at you this morning and I ask myself, do you look daunted? Do you feel daunted? I don't think you look remotely daunted to me. And I think that we know that we can do it and that the people of this country are trusting in us to do it, and we know that we will do it. And we know the mantra of the campaign that has just gone by. In case you've forgotten it, you probably have. It is deliver Brexit, unite the country and defeat Jeremy Corbyn. And that is what we're going to do. And I know some wag has already pointed out that deliver, unite and defeat was not the perfect acronym for an election campaign, since unfortunately it spells dud. But they forgot the final E, my friends, E for energise. And I say to all the doubters, dude, we are going to energise the country. We're going to get Brexit done on October the 31st. We're going to take advantage of all the opportunities that it will bring in a new spirit of can-do. And we are once again going to believe in ourselves and what we can achieve. And like some slumbering giant, we are going to rise and ping off the guy ropes of self-doubt and negativity.
Boris Johnson is facing an uphill battle. He's called for a no-deal exit from the EU, but the House of Commons has already voted to rule that out. A number of ministers have already offered their resignation after the Brexit hardliners' victory. UK opposition leader Jeremy Corbyn has sounded a warning against a no-deal on Twitter. He says Johnson's no-deal Brexit would mean job cuts, higher prices in the shops, and risk our NHS being sold off to US corporations in a sweetheart deal with Donald Trump. The people of our country should decide who becomes the Prime Minister in a general election. Meanwhile, our own Prime Minister Scott Morrison backed Mr Johnson's Brexit mission, saying he has a reputation for getting things done. Mr Morrison tweeted, "Congratulations to Boris Johnson on his election as leader of the Conservative Party in the UK. I look forward to working with him and catching up at the G7 next month. He has a reputation for getting things done and making things happen. I wish him all the best as he charts the way forward for the UK. We have a great relationship with the UK and it will remain so with Boris." Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump is a long-time supporter of Boris Johnson. Mr Trump also responding quickly on Twitter, saying, "Congratulations to Boris Johnson on becoming the new Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. He will be great."
These two men share quite a lot of similarities. They are both lovers of showmanship, of unpredictability, now share an anti-EU stance as well, have ridden on a wave of populism, and they both think they can do business with one another. Certainly from the Trump administration, there has been a lot of optimism from those I've spoken to that Boris Johnson will be the man to deliver Brexit, but also to forge a UK-US trade deal. And he's said to want to visit the United States within the next 2 months. There are, of course, some complications potentially along the way. We know that Donald Trump needs to get Congress on side, and the Irish caucus here would intend to block any attempt for a hard border in Ireland. So that's something they will have to flesh out and negotiate over. There are Conservatives, though, that you speak to here that have visions of a Reagan-Thatcher revival, that this will be the perfect union of two people that share lots in common and will be able to bring a more positive future in the special relationship. They also believe that they will survive the Sir Kim Darroch debacle. He, of course, the UK ambassador to the US here, whose cables were leaked and who Boris Johnson was criticised for not showing more support for during one of those debates. But I think they see in Boris Johnson a different kind of leader. Of course, Donald Trump did not hold back in criticism of Theresa May and the way that she handled Brexit. But before we look at Brexit or the UK-US trade deal, Boris Johnson and Donald Trump have a very immediate, thorny issue to discuss, and that is Iran. The US made clear that it was not going to provide extra ships to support and protect those British ships in the Strait of the Hormuz, and Boris Johnson will need to decide whether he continues with the European model or instead if he decides to back the US maximum pressure campaign. Then there's all the bits in between. How much will Boris Johnson stand up to Donald Trump if and when he sees unacceptable behaviour? Recently, Donald Trump has caught a lot of controversy about his tweets that were deemed racist. Boris Johnson did in fact say that he thought they were unacceptable. He fell short of referring to them as racist. So I think there's a long way to go in this relationship. Donald Trump, of course, has gotten rid of a lot of people. He can end relationships rather abruptly, but he has very consistently for some time now said that he thinks Boris Johnson will be a good Prime Minister, and he's very much looking forward to welcoming here in Washington.
And on Palmeri Live, the panel gave their reaction to Mr Johnson's ascension to the UK Prime Ministership and outlined some of the challenges he'll face. Let's take a listen.
I think he's going to have his internal challenges, quite frankly, because there's a lot of Tory members and members of Parliament who aren't that happy with him. They think it'll be a disaster. So I think he's got a very short window of opportunity to manage Brexit, to take the party along with him, and then I think he'll have to go to an election very shortly thereafter.
He's very personable, very charming. When I interviewed him on the phone a few years ago, he's not stupid, as a lot of people think that he is, but he's ill-disciplined and he's reckless sometimes in his language and not as focused and as sharp as he should be. But he's not a fool. He's a very smart guy. But the challenge is to be prime ministerial.
He's got potential, but he is a little bit flaky for my liking. And he has got a short window of opportunity now to show us what he's made of. And if he doesn't deliver Brexit, if he doesn't deliver the Brexit the people voted for, not the one that's palatable to the Remainers, then he's going to be in terrible peril, because they're going to bleed more votes, the Tories, to Nigel Farage and the Brexit Party. So he has got a monumental task.